Yes, a beautiful morning to our listeners out there. The program you're on to is in the papers, coming to you from iPower 102.7 FM. It's a paper review program where we preview and review headlines and stories making rounds in the newspapers today. I am Inioluwa Adekoya, and with me this morning I've got the Open newspaper, the Punch newspaper, the Daily Post newspaper, and the Nation newspaper. But about now we will take a short break. When we get back, we'll give you our headlines for today. Glad to have you back. The program you're still on to is in the papers, coming to you from iPower 102.7 FM. And now beginning on the top of the list of our headlines this morning, where I've got this from the Open newspaper. Accra building collapse. Developers risk penalties for violating approvals. Still on the Open newspaper, talking Fubara, impeachment stalled. CJ refuses to sit up pro panel. Still on the Open newspaper, talking Kudirat, Abiola's mother. Supreme Court dismisses Al Mustafa's trial. And to the Punch newspaper, weak issues FCT workers over indefinite strike. Still on the Punch newspaper, talking insecurity, PDP slams Abdurazak over school closure. Still on the Punch newspaper, Akpabio 6 escort validation for Natasha's suspension. Another one on the Punch, renewed bandits attack 8 Castina residents, abandon communities. Still talking headlines on the Punch newspaper, Maynard demands whistleblower fee for $1.3 trillion recovery. And now I take a flight to the Daily Post newspaper. Suburb raises alarm over teachers' absenteeism in Bauchi schools. Still on the Daily Post newspaper, INEC warns non-citizens against participation in ongoing voters registration exercise. And now to the Nation newspaper. Tensions as suspected miscreants attack Lekki Palm Estate. Still on the Nation newspaper, Nigeria-US security talks yielding results, says federal government. On the Nation newspaper, false claims against Tinubu DSS tenders Showora's post in court. And finally, on the Nation newspaper, EFCC indict banks, fintechs in 162 billion naira scam. And with that, we will take another short break. When we get back, we'll give you more headlines and more stories on the program this morning. Glad to have you back. The program you're still onto is in the papers and it's coming to you from iPower 102.7 FM. And beginning from the Open newspaper, Accra building collapse. Developers risk penalties for violating approvals. And now to the details. Following the collapse of the two-story building in Accra, the Ondo state government has tightened controls on building constructions across the state, warning developers against cutting corners and patronizing quacks. Reiterating the state position, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development, Mr. Oluwagbenga Akingbasote, said that anyone seeking to erect a building in Ondo State must obtain proper approval and comply strictly with the planning regulations, noting that violations would attract severe sanctions. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the Open newspaper with the headline, Accra building collapse, developers risk penalties for violating approvals. Still on the Open newspaper, talking Fubara, impeachment stalled, CJ refuses to set up probe panel. And now to the details. The Chief Judge of Rivers State, Justice Simon Amadi, has declined to set up a judicial panel to investigate Governor Siminalayi Fubara, citing a court order. The Rivers State House of Assembly had requested that Amadi set up a 7-member panel to probe Fubara and his deputy Ngozi Odu over allegations of gross misconduct. However, in a letter dated January 20 and addressed to the Speaker of the House, Martin Amewole, the Chief Judge cited 2 court orders barring him from receiving, forwarding, or considering any request to form such panel. The judge stated that the orders were served on his office on January 16, 2026 and remain in force. The Chief Judge further emphasized that constitutionalism and the rule of law requires all authorities to obey subsisting court orders, irrespective of the perception of the order validity. A further reference legal precedent, noting that in a similar case in 2007, the Chief Judge of Kwara State was condemned for ignoring a restraining court order when setting up an investigative panel, a decision later voided by the Court of Appeal. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the Open newspaper with the headline, Impeachment stalled, CJ refuses to set up probe panel. Still on the Open newspaper, talking Kudirat Abiola's murder, Supreme Court dismisses Al-Mustafa's trial. And now to the details. The Supreme Court has dismissed the trial of Major Hamza Al-Mustafa, retired, the former Chief Security Officer to the late military head of state General Sani Abacha, in the murder of the late politicians Alhaji Kudirat Abiola. Justice Uwani Abba-Aji, who led a 5-man panel of justices on Thursday, put to rest the trial of Al-Mustafa in the murder charge brought against him by the Lagos state government. Kudirat Abiola was the wife of the late business-cum-politician Chief MKO Abiola, the presumed winner of the June 12, 1993 presidential election that was annulled by the former president Ibrahim Babangida. Kudirat was murdered in Lagos in the nationwide crisis, and that followed the annulment and in the course of a persistent struggle to get the annulment reversed by the military. At the proceedings where the Lagos state was slated to reopen the trial, no legal representation was made while no process was filed since 2014 when the order to reopen the case was granted in its favor. When the matter was called, Paul Dauda Isayan stood for Al-Mustafa and informed justices that Lagos has not taken any step to implement the order granted it in 2014 to reopen the trial. He said that not even a notice of appeal was filed by Lagos as the appellant to demonstrate its seriousness to prosecute the trial. Dauda informed the Apex Court in 2014 when the order to reopen the trial was granted. Lagos was issued a 30-day ultimatum to file its notice of appeal. It further explained that more than 9 years after, nothing was done to comply with the order. It therefore urged the court to hold the appellant had abandoned the case and should be dismissed in its entirety. Justice Unwani Abaaji, who presided over the matter, sought to know if Lagos was served with the hearing notice. The question was answered in the affirmative by the registrar of the court. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the Herb newspaper with the headline: Supreme Court dismisses Al Mustafa's trial. And now I take a flight to the Punch newspaper. Wike sues FCT workers over indefinite strike. And now to the details. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has taken the Joint Unions Action Committee of the Federal Capital Territory Administration to court over the ongoing strike by the FCTA workers, as the dispute aired for the hearing on Monday. Workers of the FCTA and the Federal Capital Development Authority commenced an indefinite strike on Monday after the expiration of the 7-day ultimatum grounding activities across major government offices in Abuja. The industrial action shut down operations at the FCTA Secretariat, prompting the deployment of operatives of the Nigerian Civil Security and Civil Defense Corps and the Nigerian Police Force to restrict access to the complex, despite claims by the FCTA management that most of the workers' demand had been met. The JUAC rejected the assertion and insisted that the issue at stake remained unresolved. The lawsuit cited by Newsman on Thursday was filed at the Abuja Division of the National Industrial Court of Nigeria. It bears a suit number NICN/ABJ/17/2026 and is being presided over by Justice Edie Sobilim. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the Punch newspaper with the headline: Wike sues FCT workers over indefinite strike. Still on the Punch newspaper, talking insecurity. PDP slams Abdulrazak over school closure. And now to the details. The People's Democratic Party in Kwara State has slammed Governor Abdulrahman Abdulrazak over the closure of the Kwara State College of Education, Oro, describing the decision as the admission of failure in the handling of insecurity in the state. The criticism followed a directive by the Kwara State government ordering the immediate shutdown of institutions due to what it described as a worsening security threat in the area. The directive was conveyed in an internal memo dated January 20th, 2026 with reference number MOTE/CE/volume 11/200 and /227, issued by the Ministry of Tertiary Education, the Science and Technology, and cited by Newsman. The memo, signed by the Commissioner for the Tertiary Education, Aja Sadatu Kawu, instructed the management of the college to close down academic activities with immediate effect in compliance with the directive of Governor Abdulrazak. According to the document, the decision followed a growing security threat around the institution and formed part of the wider state directive to close all schools within the affected local government area. The statement further reads, and I quote, "The measure is taken in the best interest of the safety and security of staff, students and surrounding community. You are hereby instructed to take immediate steps to direct the management of the college to temporarily close the institution forthwith," the government said, while mandating the authorities to submit a report of compliance without delay. However, reacting to the closure, the PDP accused Abdulrazak-led administration of capitulating to insecurity rather than confronting it. In a statement issued recently signed by the Public Secretary Olusegun Adewara, the Kwara PDP said the action showed that the government had no coherent strategy for tackling insecurity and had instead chosen to surrender to criminals. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the Punch newspaper with the headline PDP slams Abdul Razak over school closure. Still on the Punch newspaper, Akpabio seeks court validation for Natasha's suspension. And now to the details. The legal battle over the suspension of the senator representing Kogi Central, Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, has escalated as the Senate President Godswill Akpabio has again approached the Supreme Court. Court documents cited recently showed that Akpabio filed an application before the Apex Court to regularize the sustain his appeal challenging decisions of the lower court on the matter. Akpabio is listed as the appellant, while the respondents are Akpoti-Uduaghan, the clerk of the National Assembly, the Senate Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the chairman of the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions, Senator Neda Imasuen. The dispute arose from February 2025 plenary session, during which Akpoti-Uduaghan raised issues of privilege and alleged procedural breaches. The matter was referred to a Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions, which later recommended Akpoti-Uduaghan's suspension. Dissatisfied, the Kogi lawmaker approached the Federal High Court in Abuja, alleging a breach of her right to fair hearing and non-compliance with the Senate's standing order. In its judgment on July 4, 2025, the court faulted the suspension, describing it as excessive and unconstitutional. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the Punch newspaper with the headline Akpabio seeks Supreme Court validation for Natasha's suspension. Still on the Punch newspaper, renewed bandits attack 8 Castina residents' abandoned communities. And now to the details. Despite peace accords between communities and armed bandits across many local government areas in Castina State, the hoodlums have resumed attacks on communities in the state, raising doubts about the effectiveness of the agreement. The fresh onslaught has heightened anxiety in the state, with residents lamenting the resurgence of killing and abductions in spite of the peace deal brokered between the so-called repentant bandits, the security-prone communities in the state. This is coming amid controversies surrounding plans by the state government to release 70 suspected and convicted bandits in exchange for about 1,000 victims earlier freed by the bandits under the reportedly community-driven peace agreement. The bandits are launching fresh onslaught on communities in Dandume, Kankara, Faskari, Jibia, Funtua, Malumfashi, Kofi, and Dutsin Ma local government areas of the state, despite the rapprochement between them and residents of the affected area. In Dandume, the bandits attacked Kirijan, Ungwajika, Baraje, Kuran Power and Shugu communities in the wee hours of Thursday, 22nd January 2026, abducting 8 persons, including women and children, and injuring 11 others. At Kankara, the armed bandits recently attacked a wedding motorcade in Ongogua Nagunda community of the local government area and killed no fewer than 2 farmers. The attack, which occurred on Sunday night, left the bride and many others with varying gunshot injury, while an unspecified number of wedding guests were reportedly abducted by the attackers during the invasion. If this story aligns with your interest, it is on the Punch newspaper with the headline Renewed Bandit Attacked 8 Katsina Residents Abandoned Communities. Still on the Punch newspaper, Maina demands whistleblower fee for $1.3 trillion recovery. And now to the details. A former chairman of the Presidential Task Force on Pension Reforms, Abdul Rashid Maina, has alleged that the federal government under the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, failed to honor a whistleblower agreement under which he claims to have helped recover stolen public funds totaling $1.3 trillion alongside additional asset valued $88 billion. Maina made the claim recently in Abuja while receiving a Rule of Law and Courage Award from the Nigerian Bar Association Gaki branch. Speaking on his experience, he said he was invited in 2017 to meet senior governor officials in Abu Dhabi, including the then Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami San, SAN, and was asked to return to Nigeria to assist in tracing and recovering looted assets. According to Maina, a former whistleblower agreement was signed, which entitled him to 5% of the recovered funds, about $65 billion as his fee. However, he said the amount was never paid. He said, and I quote, "I received this honor with humility, but I must speak plainly. This is not a celebration for me at all. It is a testimony of endurance and of what can happen when you insist that the law must be stronger than power." In 2017, I was invited to meet senior Nigerian government officials in Abu Dhabi, including the Attorney General at the time, Abubakar Malami. I was also asked to return and help Nigeria recover stolen public funds. We signed the whistleblower agreement. Working under the agreement, I helped recover $1.3 trillion for the Nigerian people and secured additional asset valued at $88 billion. The term was clear. I was entitled to 5% of the recovered $1.3 trillion, which is $65 billion. But to this day, I have not been paid. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the Punch newspaper with the headline, Maina demands whistleblower fee for $1.3 trillion recovery. Yes, the program you're still onto is in the papers, coming to you from iPower 102.7 FM. And now to the Daily Post newspaper. Subeb raises alarm over teachers' absenteeism in Bauchi schools. And now to the details. The Bauchi State Universal Basic Education Board Monitoring and Evaluation Team has raised concerns over frequent teachers' lateness and absenteeism across schools in Katangum local government area. Thus, in a statement issued recently by the board public relations officer Isa Mohammed Jugudo, the team, led by the Subeb Director of Quality Assurance Abbas Abdullumunmini, observed the school during a recent school monitoring exercise. Some schools recorded up to 90% teachers' absenteeism, particularly at Ahmed Turaki Primary School. Abdullumunmini reiterated the need for stakeholders to ensure the proper functioning of schools, urging parents to prioritize their children's education by ensuring punctuality. Also speaking, the Subab Director of School Services, Madam Zuhairu Usman, reminded teachers of their critical roles in shaping the future of education sector, while calling for improved commitment and performances. He further appealed to educators to change for the better in order to build a responsible and progressive society. Responding, the Katangam Local Education Authority Secretary, Madam Mukhatari Abu, commended the monitoring exercise, expressing optimism that it would inspire positive reforms within the education sector. He further urged teachers and education officials to intensify their efforts towards delivering quality-based education. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the Daily Post newspaper with the headline, Subab raises alarm over teachers' absenteeism in Bauchi schools. Yes, still on the Daily Post newspaper, INEC warns non-citizens against participation in ongoing voters registration exercise. And now to the details. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has cautioned non-citizens against participating in the ongoing continuous voters registration exercise across the country. The warning was issued recently in Bauchi by the State Resident Electoral Commissioner, Umar Ibrahim, during the interactive session held ahead of the commencement of Phase 2 of the CVR in the state. Ibrahim commended the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security for detecting a non-citizen who was mistakenly registered during Phase 1. He said the Commission has already initiated the statutory processes required to address the irregularity in line with the law. He said, and I quote, as Phase 2 progresses, the Commission urges all stakeholders to intensify sensitization, mobilization, and public enlightenment to ensure eligible citizens register and collect their permanent voters card. Ibrahim added that a voters registration remains a fundamental component of the electoral process and the need to engage stakeholders ahead of the resumption of Phase 2 exercise. Also speaking, representatives of the controller of the Nigerian Immigration Service in Bauchi State, Danladi Abdul Qadir, stressed that no non-citizen is permitted to vote or be voted for in Nigeria. He called on citizens to report suspected non-citizens to relevant authorities. Recent reports recall that Phase 1 of the CVR was conducted from August 18th to December 10th, 2025. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the Daily Post newspaper with the headline, INEC warns non-citizens against participation in ongoing voters registration exercise. Now back to the Punch newspaper. Doctors fault federal government 4.3% health allocation in 2026 budget. And now to the details. The president of the Pediatricians Association of Nigeria, Dr. Ekanem Ekure, has faulted the 4.2% allocation to health in the 2026 national budget, saying it underscores a troubling lack of investment in the well-being and future of the Nigerian children. Ekure also demanded comprehensive remediations and medical interventions for the victims of the Ogoji lead poisoning crisis linked to recycling batteries factories, noting that the majority of the affected are children. She further said the incident should spur stronger regulatory enforcement and coordinated national actions to protect vulnerable children and safeguard their future. Ikuru made the call in Abeokuta recently at the opening ceremony of the PAN 57th Annual General Meeting and Scientific Conference themed Achieving SDG 3 and child health care through innovative funding and model and technology-driven solutions. She said the theme captured the urgency and Nigerian troubling child health realities and the need for swift action by professionals, government, and other stakeholders to reverse the trend. The child health specialist disclosed that Nigeria continues to bear disproportionate burden of preventable childhood illness and mortality. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the Punch newspaper with the headline, Doctors fault federal government 4.3% health allocation in 2026 budget. Yes, the program you're still onto is in the papers and it's coming to you from iPower 102.7 FM. The time has come for you to call in for your comment and contributions. And the number to call for comment and contributions is 0816 552 4699. The number to call for comment and contributions is 0816 552 4699. You can also reach out to us on 0813 2747339 0813-274-7339 for comments and contributions to any of the headlines and stories read out to your hearing. And you can also watch us live on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at iPower1027 FM and on X at iPower1027. Right about now, we will take a short break. When we get back, we will give you more stories and more headlines making news in the papers today. Glad to have you back. The program you're still on to is in the papers on iPower 102.7 FM. You can watch us live on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at iPower 1027 FM and on X at iPower 1027. And for comments and contributions, you can call us on 0816 552 4699 0816 552 4699. And now back to the Punch newspaper, talking 2027. North Central APC cautions Tinubu against dropping Shatima. And now to the details. The North Central All Progressive Congress Forum has rejected moves to drop Vice President Kashim Shettima as President Bola Tinubu's running mate ahead of the 2027 general elections, warning that such a step would amount to grave political miscalculations. The forum position was contained in a statement issued on recently in Abuja by its chairman Alhaji Saleh Zazaga, following reports that some persons with the ruling party were pushing for Shettima's replacement. The speculations was fueled by after the vice president's photograph was omitted from the banner bearing images of the APC leaders in the Northeast during the party's zonal public hearing on the amendment to its constitution in Maduguri. The banner featured President Tinubu, 5 APC governors from the zone, and the party's national legal advisor. The development has reignited debate over the viability of the APC Muslim presidential ticket in 2027 and Shettima's political future. Some stakeholders within the party have reportedly called for his replacement, with the Christians from the north in particular. Some groups from the north central region have demanded that a Christian forum, the area, should be selected as Tinubu's running mate in the next elections. However, the North Central APC Forum one that replacing Shettima would be disastrous to the party and could jeopardize President Tinubu's re-election bid. The forum added that the North Central is not angling for the vice president slot, noting that the region is focusing on contesting full presidency in 2031 after Tinubu's tenure, cautioning against injecting religious sentiment into political calculations. The forum argued that North currently lacks a Christian candidate with sufficient grassroots support, national appeal and political structure to complement Tinubu's electoral strength in his running mate. It maintained that abandoning the Muslim ticket would only strengthen the opposition in 2027. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the Punch newspaper with the headline, North Central APC cautions Tinubu against dropping Shettima. And now to the Nation newspaper. Tensions as suspected miscreants attack Lekki Palm Estate. And now to the details. Tensions gripped Lekki Palm Estate as after a group of suspected miscreants reportedly invaded the area, claiming they were acting on the directive of influential figure in Lagos. Eyewitnesses said the individuals stormed the estate, triggering panic and unease among residents. Attempts to confirm the reason for the attack were still ongoing at the time of filing this report. Security operatives responded swiftly to the incident, with officers of the Lagos State Police Command arresting some of the suspects. Authorities have commenced investigation to ascertain the circumstances surrounding the attack and verify the authenticity of the claims made by those involved. Meanwhile, residents have urged relevant authorities to take decisive actions to restore calm and guarantee the safety of lives and property within the estate as investigation continues. If that's the aligns with your interest, it is on the Nation newspaper with the headline, Tension as suspected miscreants attack Lekki Palm Estate. Still on the Nation newspaper, Nigeria-US security talks yielding results, says federal government. And now to the details. The federal government has said recently that its security collaboration with the United States has strengthened counter-terrorism operations, especially in the Northeast, Northwest and North Central. The government reiterated its commitment to strengthening cooperation to better protect lives and properties across the country. National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu and Information and National Orientation Minister Muhammad Idris stated that Nigeria was delighted that security ties respect our country's sovereignty and prioritizes accountability and civilian protection. Ribadu and Idris spoke at the plenary session of Nigeria-US Joint Working Group to address the country's particular concern, designations of the country at the NSA office in Abuja. The U.S. team was led by Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs Alison Oka. Ribadu said the engagement marked the third eye-level interaction with the senior U.S. officials since November last year and reflected a relationship grounded in trust, candor, and shared responsibility. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the Nation newspaper with the headline, Nigeria-U.S. security talks yielding results, says federal government. Still on the Nation newspaper, Tinubu approves posting of 4 ambassador designates to key foreign missions. And now to the details. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved the posting of 4 ambassador designates to strategic foreign missions, marking the first step of posting from the 68 nominees confirmed by the Senate in December 2025. According to a statement recently by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, the posting include Ambassador Ayodele Oke as Nigeria's ambassador designate to France on Colonel Latif Are as ambassadors designate to the United States of America. Also approved in the posting was Ambassador Amil Dahatu, a former Nigerian envoy in South Korea, as High Commissioner designate to the United Kingdom, while former Kebbi Governor Usman Issa Dankingari Suleiman has been named ambassador designate to Turkey. Tinubu is scheduled to embark on a state visit to Turkey next week. In a memo to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the President directed that the government of the 4 countries be formally notified of the posting in line with the established diplomatic procedure. The posting came after backdrops of the Senate confirmation of the new sets of ambassadors in December 2025, and in a prolonged delay of filling diplomatic vacancies across the country's foreign missions. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the Nation newspaper with the headline, Tinubu approves posting of 4 ambassador designates to key foreign missions. Still on the Punch newspaper, talking abductions, U.S. demand action, federal government vows to track bandits. And now to the details. Concerns over security in Kaduna State escalated as gunmen abducted 177 worshippers from 3 churches in Kamen Wali, Kajuru local government area. 11 victims escaped while 166 remain in captivity. U.S. Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs Alison Hooker stressed the need for urgent action, saying, "Today, we are here to discuss how we can work together to deter violence against Christian communities, prioritizing countering terrorism and insecurity, investigating attacks and holding perpetrators accountable." National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu assured that Nigeria is intensifying joint military operations and investigations, noting that violence framed along religious line is treated as an attack on Nigerian state itself. Our response therefore integrates security operations, rule of law, humanitarian safeguards, and strategic communications. Survivors include 27-year-old Maimuna Babangida described her own experience. Babangida, 8 months pregnant during captivity, said, "Throughout my 13 days in captivity, I received no medical attention, despite being heavily pregnant and extremely weak. The way food was given to us was degrading. I cried almost every day, especially seeing my children suffer." She gave birth to a baby boy, Abubakar, while still in captivity. Community and youth groups called for improved local security, urging that residents familiar with the forest terrains be included in a functional forest guard system to prevent future attacks. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the Punch newspaper with the headline, It is on the Punch newspaper with the headline, U.S. demands actions, a federal government vows to track bandits. And now back to the Nation newspaper. False claims against Tinubu, DSS tenders show arrest post in court. And now to the details. The trial of politician and online publisher Omoyele Sowore opened recently in a cybercrime case against him. The prosecution called its first witness, Cyril Nosike, an official of the Department of State Services. The witness told the court that Sowore claimed that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was a criminal, generated tension, and threatened public safety. The DSS is prosecuting Sowore for allegedly making false claims against President Tinubu in a post he made on his X and Facebook accounts. The defendant is accused of contravening the provisions of Cybercrime Prohibition and Prevention (ETC) Amendment Act 2024. Nosike was led in evidence by the prosecuting lawyer Inioluwa Adekoya, said he is stationed by the Cyberspace Monitoring Center of the DSS and that his duty includes monitoring the cyberspace for 24 hours, night and day. The witness said in the course of this duty on August 26 last year at the Cyberspace Monitoring Center, he monitored a post by the defendant Sowore through his expert platform. The SS officer said the post referred to the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, about whom Sowore said this criminal at official Abbott actually went to Brazil to state that there is no more corruption under his regime in Nigeria. What audacity to lie shamelessly. The witness said that when he came across the video which Sowore allegedly posted, and under which the defendant wrote the statement, he, the witness, downloaded it and saved it in a flash drive and marked it XYZ. When shown the flash drive and a certificate of compliance, he identified them as the item it referred to. The prosecuting lawyer then applied to tender them in evidence. Defense lawyer Masha Abubakar said he would reserve his objections, which he intended to raise at the appropriate time. If that story aligns with your interest, it is on the Nation newspaper with the headline, False claim against Tinubu, DSS tenders Sowore's post in court. And on the Nation newspaper, EFCC indicts banks, fintechs in 162 billion naira scam. And now to the details. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has indicted a new generation bank, 6 fintechs and some microfinance banks in major financial scams by allowing fraudsters to launder huge sum of money. Public Affairs Director of the Commission, Mr. Wilson Uwujaran, dropped the hint at the news conference at the Commission in Abuja headquarters recently. According to him, the compromised institution allegedly allowed cryptocurrency transactions worth 162 billion naira to pass through without due diligence within the 2024-2025 financial year. Ujaran said the financial institution clearly compromised banking procedures and allowed the fraudster to safely change their ill-gotten gains into digital assets and move them to safe destination. He said, and I quote, a total sum of 18.1 billion naira was moved through the financial system without due diligence of customers by the banks. If that's the realigns with your interest, it is on the Nation newspaper with the headline, EFCC indicts banks, fintechs in 162 billion naira scam. Yes, the program you're still on to is in the papers, coming to you from iPower 102.7 FM. You can watch us live on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at iPower 1027 FM and on X at iPower 1027. You can also call in for comments and contributions on 0816 552 4699. The number again, 0816 552 4699. You can also reach out to us on 0813 274 7339 0813 274 7339. Right about now, we will take a short break. When we get back, we'll give you a recap of the stories and headlines read out to you today. Do not go anywhere. Yes, glad to have you back. You're still on to In the Papers, and it's coming to you from iPower 102.7 FM. Beginning on the top of our recaps this morning, where we informed you on the opening newspaper that developers risk penalties for violating approvals. Still talking recap on the Open newspaper, talking for Barra. We informed you that the impeachment has been stalled and the CJ has refused to set up a probe panel. And still on the Open newspaper, we informed you concerning Kudirat Abiola's murder. Supreme Court has dismissed Al Mustafa's trial. And on the Punch newspaper, we informed you that Wike has sued the FCT workers over indefinite strike. Still on the Punch newspaper, talking and security, we informed you that the PDP has slammed Abdul Razak over school closure. Still on the Punch newspaper, where we informed you that the renewed bandit attacks has hit Castina and residents of abandoned communities. Still talking recap on the Daily Post newspaper, when we informed you that Subeb has raised alarms over the teachers' absenteeism in Bauchi schools. Still on the recap, talking Daily Post newspaper, INEC has warned non-citizens against participation in ongoing voters' registration exercise. And to the Nation newspaper, where we informed you that tension has risen as suspected migrants attack Lekki Palm Estate. Finally, talking recap, we informed you that false claims against Tinubu DSS has tendered Shura's post in court. And with that, we've come to an end on today's edition of In the Papers, the program where we hope this review has kept you informed of what is making rounds in the newspapers today. Until next time, I remain Inioluwa Adekoya. Have a wonderful day and stay blessed.